Okay, so first of all, there's information about WorkPoint on the Resell for Sage site, which I'm showing at the moment. There are various views there, and there's also a guide on the Reseller FTP site. So there's plenty of areas to kind of find more information out further than what I'm going to show you here. So I happen to be working on a 200 CounterPoint. It's exactly the same as 50, but we're really just looking at the front end anyway for the WorkPoint area. So WorkPoint is really just an extension, or it's an extension of CounterPoint. It is an additional model, so the client has to buy an additional model, and if there are any reseller demo licenses out there, it's already incorporated, so you can all access in the following ways. Okay, so WorkPoint is just a module, but it does need CounterPoint to be installed first, because that's how you get to it. So to access WorkPoint, there are two ways. If you're on the default counter page, you can go to the cross tools at the top right, and there it is at the top, so we can access it through that WorkPoint button there. More often than not, though, people will be using touch screens, so I'll just switch to a touch screen. And on the touch screen, this is just a standard demo database touch screen. A button can be put on there. It's not on the standard one, but you can put a touchscreen button, as you know, to do lots of different functions. And all we do is create a touchscreen button, so we can access it through that button there and open up WorkPoint. So what I'll do now is I will go into WorkPoint. I'll use this button to go through from the touch button. And now on your screen, you will see the WorkPoint home screen, if you like. Okay, so to introduce this screen then, first of all, down the side, you've got filters, so the options, so we can see all the jobs, all the estimates, or deposits, or whatever, or quotes, whatever you want to call them, and an archive button, so we can clear off a few if they've already been completed. All the rows here you see, or the job IDs alongside them, these are all individual jobs or estimates. You can see whether they're jobs because I've got the grid showing a column for estimates. This one at the bottom is an estimate here, or these are actually above are already in progress, and this one here is ready for invoicing to be able to finish the job off. So the application for WorkPoint is usually, I think it was first came about several years ago now, for maybe a locksmith. So a shop on the high street, a locksmith selling his wares through the CounterPoint, through the till, and then somebody comes along and wants to buy a lock and have it fitted. So that then goes into the realms of a little bit of a service. So you need to take some maybe information on that job to give to the engineer to go out to do the job, and also the parts that they might need to have on it. Now that might start off as an estimate, or it might go straight into a job. So WorkPoint lends itself exactly for that application. It runs just like CounterPoint. It's an add-on to Sage with the customers that are in Sage and the parts that are in Sage. So it's working exactly the same as CounterPoint in that respect, apart from all the job creation is done within WorkPoint, and just the invoice will then be posted into Sage, or the invoice and receipt. So I've got a grid here. I've got plenty more I could put on this grid with the titles up here, but usually you know, these are just the core things that you might wish to reference and see. Okay, so what we can do also with these jobs that might come about, there may be some standard jobs that you might be doing. So there might be a menu of jobs that you're doing repeatedly, and you don't want to have to build them all the time. You might just want to have a menu of maybe the services or the jobs that you do regularly. There is a button. We'll look down the bottom here. The buttons that are down the bottom, and sorry, I've got a little bit of a sticky mouse. I think I need to get it oiled. There's a button called STD Jobs, standard jobs. So if I open that up, I've got just a few examples in here. I've got 3 standard jobs: fit a basic kitchen, fit blinds, or repair hob. Three tabs on there. Fit the basic kitchen at the top. The description of the job is on the right, and if I can get my mouse to work again, in that job, these are the main details that I've already put it preset in there. And my mouse again. And the parts that go in that job are all listed down here. Again, standard parts taken from Sage. Right? So we can have a whole menu of jobs to save us actually filling them in again. You'll see how that helps later when we actually do create a job. So I'll back out of that. We're back to the main screen. So let's get on and make an estimate and job, and then see it through the process. We've got the option of actually opening any of the jobs that we've got already on here. We've got the option of creating a new job, or we've got the option of creating an estimate. We'll start from the beginning and create a new estimate. So I'm pressing the button New Estimate. This is coming up with the list of customers, just like in the CounterPoint till, all coming from Sage here, and I've got the option of creating a new customer, just like we have in CounterPoint. So all the same screens, all operating the same to make it easy for the user. I'll select the top one, the A56 plumbing client, and first of all, it's actually asking me if I want to add a unit that client owns to this job. We'll pass that by, and I'll come back to that later and explain what a unit is. Okay, so creating the estimate, you see it's labeled as an estimate. It's giving the reference number 27 to start with. Has actually come in to the it's come into the screen for that estimate. In the large wide area in the middle, I can write some details about what that job is. I can give it a name, and the details you see here. Now this is where the standard jobs come in. If it's a standard job, I could just go to the button, the same button at the bottom, standard job, and I can populate all that quite quickly and easily. I'll add a standard job to this job. Okay, so we can fit some blinds, let's say. Okay, I'm going to add that to the job or estimate. In this case, it's an estimate, and these are the details. I'm just going to add all the details. So this then, if my mouse would work again, has populated the field here. Obviously, if there's a lot of text, it would be more useful. And it's also populated the parts in there in the tab for the parts of that estimate. So parts counter, just like the counter on CounterPoint. I can add new parts down the bottom left with the finder, exactly the same as we've got with at the till. I can either barcode it in, or I can write a small bit of text to find it. It comes up with the finder, and there I can find my extractor hood to actually select it and add it into the job. Unlike the counter, it just gives me a little reference to see if this is the actual part that I really do want to add to the job, and then I can charge it to the job. If my mouse would work a bit quicker. Oops, there we go. So my extractor hood is now added to that list. So very similar to the counter, just adding the parts on. If I need to delete a part, I just highlight it, and down the bottom I delete the part off. Okay, so the estimate is now being built. We've got the details. If I switch to the details tab here, note it's got spellings corrections, so I can actually either can use the spell check to actually find length and correct it, and I can add in all sorts of data in here, maybe instructions for the engineer to fit these blinds onto this customer's job. I can take an order number from the actual customer, and I can put in the dates, required dates and such like. Okay, so I'll save those bits of information there. Now this is an estimate still. It's created the details of the job and the parts that we need for it. So therefore we've got a value for that job or that estimate. We can print this estimate out using the buttons down below, or we can email the estimate on. Okay, so estimate 27 then may be just held for the customer. I can close it, and there we see at the top estimate 27 is actually logged in the system. Nothing apart from any of those parts that may have been configured to go into to Sage as work in progress has actually happened in Sage. This can all be kept in WorkPoint and CounterPoint database. So the next stage then is the customer comes in or emails in and says that they want to go ahead with that job, that estimate. So I can simply highlight it and open it. The job then opens up, same as we had before. It's still an estimate. I may do some rejigging to it if the customer's requested that, or I might just convert it straight to a job because now the customer's accepted and wants to go ahead with it. So I need to put it into the next phase of the process. I go to the right where it says convert to job. It does what it says on the button. It just converts it to the job. Yes, I'm sure I want to convert it. And now the job has changed to job number 27. You'll see at the top here. Note that some of the tabs have now changed. We've now got an invoicing tab, so we can actually start billing this. So the parts here, still the same. I can add more on. I can edit them. I can edit the item, and it could maybe have 2 more. Just the same as at the counter part. I'm creating that a bit more expensive than it was. So all of these things are actually now in action. The engineer may now need notes to be able to go off and carry out the job. For that, I can create a job sheet button at the top right here. I've hopefully got it in print preview, so you'll see a design of what it might look like. I'm going to let the parts be shown on the job sheet so the engineer knows what to pick up from the storeroom as they go through. I happen to have a few different designs that I can actually have the job sheet in. I'll go for laser A4. You can see that it can all be designed because I've gone into design mode and not gone straight to the printer. And there's a preview of what this particular one looks like. Details of the job or the unit that we're working on at the top. Any details I've got of that I've prescribed in there. And I did the description that I've already typed in the middle here. That's instructions to the engineer. A list of the parts as we actually asked it to be. Now a lot of the time there's other things go on during jobs, and the engineer might need to make notes on this. This has always been come back to being preferred to be actually on paper, but there's no reason why this can't be PDF'd and emailed to the engineer. But the job sheet ultimately can be created there if that's a need within the process for the client. Okay, with that done, the engineer comes back and the job is finished or half completed. Notes then can be still made in the details here. We could add more in, or we could clean it up so that it's more customer orientated and none of the language you might have been speaking to the engineer in. The next stage then is obviously to move into the invoicing tab. Now there are a few different stages you can go through here. You'll notice at the beginning I had one of the jobs that said that it was ready for invoicing. This is if you have maybe a supervisor who wants to just check through and not see that you've overcharged, undercharged, and that the details are in a customer sort of language. So we can use this little checkbox here, ready to invoice. It wants to know who's actually authorizing that. So I'll put my name in there and put my name to it. And now this job is flagged for ready for invoicing. So if there's somebody who's not got permissions to do that, then they finish there and leave it for the supervisor or accountant to go through an invoice from CounterPoint, from WorkPoint. However, some people might just miss that bit out and go straight to the invoice button here, creating the invoice. If I create the invoice and my mouse doesn't stop working again, then we've got the choice. We can actually look at a trial invoice, so we can look at what it looks like. Of course, it's in design mode again, if we choose it to be. And we can actually do a partial invoice or a final invoice. So partial invoices are often used maybe to take a deposit on a job. We've got some clients using this who are, I think they're wedding planners or event planners, and they take a deposit. They create a quote for the big day, and to make sure that the client comes back to them on their wedding day, which might be a year or so away, they take a deposit. So they use the partial invoice to take a bit of a deposit on this job. Most though will be just going to just want to take the money for this, take the $429.98 in this case, and take the final invoice. We can print that off. The payments, obviously you can choose to charge it to the account if they've got a credit account, or select the payment method just like on the counter, through cash, check, card, whichever payment methods you've got enabled. We'll just charge this to the account. Off it goes to the paid to the account. Again, the invoice has now come up in preview mode, and that just happens to be how I've got this one laid out. Obviously, I've made a little error in the laying out there. But you'll notice that now, all the way through, we've used all the information we've initially put in. So the description of the actual job has come through here, and we've got the edited description if you've had to put it into a customer language here, and we've put the parts in there for an invoice. But again, it can be very configurable. You can hide the labor, you can merge a few of these different items together into one part, which I can show you later. Okay, so again, my mouse is stalled. I need a new mouse. So that job has now been completed. We can actually go back, and you'll see in the jobs here that maybe I didn't complete it. That it should be actually completed in there. Let me just open it up and check. Yeah. Okay, I think that's a screen refresh. There we go, it is completed. It's screen refresh. I didn't refresh it. So this job's now completed, and we can move on to the next one. Okay, so does that, just at that stage, if I'll just pause there, does that seem logical through? I can add a few, I'm going to do another example now and add a few more little extras you can put in. Yeah, is everybody, John, I haven't got who's there listed in front of me, but John, does that seem logical?
Yeah, no, that, yeah, it does to me.
Good. Okay.
All right. Fine to me.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's go. Let's just move on to another little slant to that. We mentioned before units. I'm going to create one now. I'll just create a job. I won't do it. I'll go jump straight into a job rather than creating the estimate. So I'm going to press new job. I'll pick the same client here. A client may have several units, which we've got this WorkPoint configured to use the units and have it pop up at this stage. A unit is a generic term for whatever the sector the client's in. It may be a car, it may be a truck, it may be a piece of large machinery that you do work on or service on. I think from our past, it started off being a boat or a yacht. or it could be a caravan. So this is a unit. It's kept in a different database so that it can be attributed to a customer, but also if you're collecting details on this unit, if that customer sells it, you've still got the details of the unit and it just attaches to another customer. So the bonus or the advantages of having a unit, and this one's just got one unit, looks like a hot rod car, we'll select it and we'll see which one, all the details of it. So that unit has now been collected into this job. You see it's the same as we've had before, but we've gone straight into a job number 28. And the account is down the bottom here. And the unit, it must be the reg, we've labelled this as the reg plate of that unit. Let's use the unit button down the bottom here to see more about that unit, which we can create as we're going through, or we can use existing ones. So the idea is that you've now got a record card, electronic record card, of the details of that particular unit of the client. So if you're working on it, you don't need to go back to him and see what kind of fuel it uses. You know to go and get a bucket full of rocket fuel for this this item to fill. You know what the engine number is. You might find there's other fields here. What size battery you need to replace in there. All of these fields down here, you can see that there's a load for this particular type of unit. We've not actually got populated yet, but there's plenty of room to put more in there. Okay, this particular unit has got a type of a car, but I could put as many as I wish in. I've just put a few different units in here, a powerboat, a truck and a yacht. If I pick one of those different units when I'm creating this unit, so there's too many units in this description, but all these different types of units could have different labels here where it says transmission, fuel type. You don't have those on a powerboat, for instance. You maybe don't have colour. You'd have the topside colour. You might need the draft of it, or certain different elements to it. So this is a record card which can be for lots of different types of unit to the sector or the customer's choice, which can be entered in there. So with this also, then we can also have the service history of the unit. So we can create a service reminder. This one comes out every July to keep you in touch with the client with his products and proactively get work in. Okay, so that was looking at the unit that we've created this job for, and it is just there really to help you create the job. I can again create a standard job, or I can type in my text for what the job should be. And this one here, I can put in the title, I can put an order number in if I wish. Okay, so if we go now again to the parts area, where I haven't put pre-populated any in here, I can find a couple of parts. I'll find the ice cream maker and add that to the job. I'll scan in. They're all coming up in red because they're obviously low in stock, which is a standard thing, happens on CounterPoint as well. And then I'll put in the meat slice. Let's find that. If I could spell it right. There's the meat slice. So all these products are coming out of Sage. And mouse again. There we go. So I've now got a couple of products on that job. I'll just add one more so that we can add an example. I've now got 3 items on that job list. Yeah. The job sheet could be created again now for the engineer to go off and do the job. But I'm just going to now show you an element which you may find useful, you may want to put in there. We saw on the invoice all the parts were listed out line by line. If we have on the grid the parts group, defaultly called, we can actually group a few parts together. So in this area here, we can actually click into the actual field, and up pops a floating drop down. I may have some in there already, or I can type in my free text here. I could type in I could put in machines. Now the purpose of this is that now on the invoice, not going into Sage, but on the invoice that I'm giving the customer, I can hide that I'm having an ice cream maker and a commercial meat slicer, and just put them all under the parts group of machines. So in all of the items that I want to appear in that, from the drop down, there you see my machines. I can put those two items in there, and maybe I'll leave this freestanding electric ring out. Yeah, so what I've done is I've grouped two items together so that on the machine, on the invoice, it should say machines. If I've spelled it correct, it'll show whatever I've typed. Okay, so let's move on to the invoicing then and see what that's created. Into the invoice here, I said that we could skip this little bit if the business is a small business and they don't have that many levels, and go straight to invoicing. My mouse is, I think it's coming out of the back of the machine. So well, you can see in there, while I get my mouse over to it, that we've got the invoice type coming up. We'll go straight to doing a final invoice. As I say, you could take a deposit for this and leave the remainder to be invoiced later, or take several deposits. It won't allow you to take a deposit higher than the uninvoiced value, of course. Okay, we'll go to the final invoice, charge it to an account again, just so that we can see the preview of, make that a bit bigger. So now you can see on the invoice, I've got the parts, and there's the freestanding electric rings, but now underneath we've got machines, which has totaled up all of those items that I grouped together in the parts group. Right. That's an attribute you can use on CounterPoint as well. Okay, so that's that job finished off, and we can close that, and we're back to the home page of WorkPoint, if you like. Now, all those settings and configurability are available within CounterPoint. If I close WorkPoint, I come straight back to my counter, so I can carry on doing the facilities for the next client, be it on the counter or going back into WorkPoint. One last thing before we open up the questions. I'm struggling with my mouse here. Is just to go into the back office of CounterPoint. If I can drive my mouse while I'm holding it into the back of my machine. In the configuration, you can see if you've got the module licensed in your CounterPoint license, then you will have the CounterPoint module configurations or the WorkPoint configurations. Here you can see the area we'd edit those unit descriptions, as I say, for each different type. We can create different job types to categorize them. I did all mine in general type, the default one. And under WorkPoint workshop configuration, we can see these are the settings. So there's not as many as you have all the way through CounterPoint, but we can have different settings in workshop, as you see on the screen. You'll see here that on the, if you can see my pointer and my mouse, that on the use of units on jobs, I had it on optional so that I could show you one way or the other. The customer might need it so that they're always forcing it to have a unit. It depends on the sector. Here for the partial invoices, this is what defaultly it will call the invoice, but some people have that set as deposit if they're using it more for deposits. And here we can have all the different settings that you might want the WorkPoint to behave like once you're actually using it. Right, so those are the general settings that the client can actually go through, or what a configuration enabled client can actually go through and edit. There's one other area that can be configure the WorkPoint area, and that's underneath the system, which in the new version, the new release, has moved to the left-hand side. So you to give you a little bit of a search to find it. But in here, and this is where resellers can access, in the ledger link setups, which is usually done right at the beginning of the install. You'll recognize this page from doing your CounterPoint setups, doing all these. There is one area down the right with only one configuration you can actually do. The others are grayed out. And that's to record the work in progress for the stock. And that, as I said, was I was going through there. Everything stays in WorkPoint and doesn't go into Sage 50 or 200 until you actually do the invoice. That's when it's posted. Unless you have this ticked, and then as you are actually adding the parts to the job or the estimate, then they will go into, let me correct that, as you're putting them to the job, then you will have those parts set to work in progress in Sage. So in effect, it cordons off the items that you're intending to use on the job and puts them out of the free stock in Sage into work in progress. And that's all there is to WorkPoint in the setting up. So in the system setup, the systems configuration, the ledger link setup, and the workshop configuration, there are 3 areas here that you set up. And then you can go ahead and use WorkPoint.